What I'm about to reveal is known to very few. There's a secret code that all women unconsciously use when they're around a man they like, and it has to do with something as simple as touch. But not just any touch. There's a specific gesture, a special touch which, when you see it, means only one thing. She likes you. And today, as a woman, I will reveal this secret. I am a psychiatrist, psychotherapist, and writer. For decades, I have been researching human emotions, emotional intelligence, and the mysteries of the human mind. Today, I would like to share with you what I have learned in my clinical practice, my research, and in my interactions with thousands of patients and readers. Before I do that, however, I want to clarify something fundamental. The majority of human communication is nonverbal. This means that while she says how interesting what's being said is, her body is signaling something completely different. I've observed this time and again in decades of clinical practice. Words only convey a fraction of the actual message. The rest comes from the tone of voice and above all from the body language. So why are you only paying attention to what she says? As a woman, I can guarantee you one thing. We women are masters at saying one thing and conveying something else entirely. This isn't manipulation, it's instinct. Our ancestors developed these signals as a mechanism of natural selection. A prehistoric woman couldn't simply tell a man, "Hey, I like you," because that would have made her vulnerable. The female brain has therefore developed a system of tactile codes. I will introduce these codes to you today. Some are obvious once learned, but most men never notice them their entire lives. And the worst part is, you've probably already seen women touching themselves in a certain way, practically begging you to take the next step. And you just stood there, chatting about the weather. But that ends today, because after this video, you'll be able to read any woman like an instruction manual. And I'm telling you, once you know this, you won't make that mistake again. Before we continue, I must point out something important. Not every touch has the same meaning. There is a vast difference between a nervous and an attractive touch. I will teach you to distinguish between them with clinical precision. But first, let's talk about the most revealing touch of all. Let's start with the most well-known yet least understood aspect: hair. You've probably heard that a woman is flirting when she touches her hair. But that's only partly true, and half-truths are worse than lies. Look, we constantly touch our hair. We do it when we're bored, when we're thinking, when we're hot, when our hair bothers us. So how can you tell when something really means something? I'll explain it to you in detail. The difference lies in 3 factors: speed, duration, and eye contact. When a woman feels genuine attraction, her touch of her hair is slow. The way her fingers glide through the strands has something almost sensual about it. It's not a purely practical gesture, but an exhibitionistic one. It's showing you something, and there's an explanation for that, deeply rooted in our biology. Throughout evolutionary history, healthy hair has been an indicator of fertility and good genes. When we slowly and deliberately stroke our hair in the presence of others, our primal brain signals, "Look, I'm healthy, I'm desirable, I'm a good choice." That sounds primitive because it is. Millions of years of evolution don't simply disappear just because we own smartphones. But there's more to it than that. Pay attention to movements that expose the neck. The neck is one of the most sensitive parts of the human body. Showing it is a sign of submission and trust. When she pushes her hair to the side and makes this area visible, she unconsciously signals, "I feel safe with you. I am relaxed." In years of observing patients and studying nonverbal behavior, I have noticed that women touch their hair significantly more often when they are in the presence of someone they are attracted to. This isn't a coincidence, but a recurring pattern that I now clearly recognize. Now to the 3rd factor, eye contact. If she's running her fingers through her hair while looking away, or fiddling with her phone, it probably means nothing. But if she does this and maintains eye contact with you, even briefly, you've just received an invitation. And most men ignore it because they don't know how to interpret it. Here's a clinical observation that few mention. The manner of touch is crucial. It makes a difference whether you twist a strand of hair around your finger, which signals both nervousness and interest, or whether you gently run your whole hand through your hair, which appears more confident and seductive. The first gesture says, "You make me nervous, but I like you." The second gesture means, "I know you like me, and that's okay with me." Also pay attention to whether the gesture is repeated. A touch can be casual. 3 or 4 touches in a 5-minute conversation already reveal a pattern. And patterns don't lie. But here's something that will change your perspective. The touch of the hair is not yet a clear signal. It's merely a foretaste. What follows is the actual climax. If the hair is the foretaste, then the neck is the main course. And I'm going to explain why, starting with something most people never think about. The neck is one of the most sensitive parts of the body. From an evolutionary perspective, protecting it was vital for survival. When a woman touches her neck in front of you, she's sending one of the strongest signals of self-confidence and vulnerability. But not every neck touch is a sign of interest. This is the crucial difference I've learned to recognize over time. A quick, tense touch, as if trying to relieve stress, usually indicates discomfort. A gentle touch, on the other hand, where the fingers glide almost absent-mindedly over the skin while she maintains an open posture towards you, is something quite different. In my clinical experience, I have observed that when women feel attracted to someone, they react with a slight sensation of warmth in the back of their neck, caused by increased blood flow to that area. This sensation causes the hand to unconsciously move in that direction. It's as if the body wants to direct its attention to that point. Now, let's move on to the collarbone. This area is fascinating because many women wear necklaces and jewelry here. Observe closely if she touches her necklace while speaking to you. If she does so while looking at you and smiling, she is practicing what I call active decorating. She's essentially drawing attention to an interesting area while maintaining eye contact. My research on nonverbal communication shows that women touch their jewelry significantly more often when they're in the presence of an attractive person. The female brain unconsciously tries to direct attention to pieces of jewelry that accentuate certain areas. Here's an observation that few people make. The small indentation between the collarbones, directly above the sternum, is one of the most intimate parts of the body, and it remains visible even in normal social situations. When a woman places her fingers there while speaking, it almost seems like a signal. You see, I'm opening up to you here. Now I need to take an important break. Everything I tell you has a specific context. A woman you've just met who constantly touches her neck and shows off her collarbone could be very interested or simply have a nervous tick. The important thing is to observe the changes in her behavior. If you notice she does these things more often when she's with you than with others, you have your answer. And speaking of answers, what follows is considered by many to be the strongest indicator of all. But before we get to that, I have to explain something about lips that will surprise you. We are now entering a very revealing area, the lips. And what I'm about to tell you will likely make you reconsider many past encounters. The lips are among the areas of the body with the highest density of nerve endings in the entire human body. They are extremely sensitive. When a woman touches your lips in your presence, she triggers a complex neurological response. I will explain the different types of lip touching and their respective meanings. Touching the lower lip with the index finger is arguably the most seductive of all. When a woman does this while listening to you, she's making a direct visual connection between your lips and the conversation. It's as if she's saying, "While I'm listening to you, I'm thinking about things related to my lips." You don't have to be a genius to imagine what that is. Then there is the gesture of lip biting. In my clinical practice and my studies on nonverbal behavior, I have always interpreted this gesture as an act of self-control. We are literally suppressing something we want to say or do. If a woman bites her lip when she sees you, she's suppressing impulses. Think about that. Touching the upper lip has a different meaning. This gesture suggests an evaluation. If she touches her upper lip while you're speaking, she's processing what she's heard and forming an opinion about you. It doesn't come across as directly seductive, but it shows that she's truly listening to you, which is remarkable in today's distraction-filled world. A truly characteristic sign of genuine interest is lip licking. When we feel attracted to someone, our mouths often become somewhat dry due to changes in the autonomic nervous system. Lip licking can simply be a reaction to this dryness, but it's also a gesture that our primitive brain recognizes as preparation for contact. It's subtle, but incredibly revealing. My decades of observing human interactions have shown me that attentive observers can tell how attracted a woman is to a man simply by watching her lip movements during a conversation. Lips don't lie. And here's a crucial point. Frequency is just as important as the gesture itself. A single touch of the lips can mean anything. However, if you notice her touching your lips several times during the conversation, especially when you're talking about something personal or during a pause with eye contact, that's a clear sign. But wait, there's an almost foolproof combination. If she touches her lips while slightly tilting her head and giving you a small smile, you've just received the clearest sign of interest that female body language can convey without explicit hints. But all of that pales in comparison to what comes next. Up until now, we've been talking about self-touch, about how she touches herself. But there's a completely different level of signals, one that involves something more direct. Before we get to direct contact with you, we need to talk about a fascinating intermediate area: objects. If a woman is interested in you but doesn't yet feel comfortable with direct contact, she projects this need for touch onto nearby objects. I observe this frequently, and it has a very clear psychological explanation. Pay attention to how she touches her wine glass or cup. If she does it gently, almost caressing it, while talking to you, she is projecting something of herself. When our brain wants to touch something or someone, but a social barrier exists, it redirects this impulse toward objects in the environment. This allows us to channel attraction without crossing boundaries that are not yet established. The mobile phone is another important indicator, but not in the way one might expect. If she holds her phone with the screen facing down or puts it away while talking, that suggests interest. However, if she occasionally touches it gently, almost caressingly, without looking at it closely, she's processing her nervousness, which is related to her attractiveness. Earrings are another indicator. When a woman touches her earrings while listening, she is doing something doubly significant. First, she is touching a piece of jewelry, which, as already mentioned, is in itself a signal. Second, she is also touching her ears, a particularly sensitive area. It's as if her subconscious is saying, "I'm nervous and excited. I need to touch something." And here's a clinical observation that few people make. Pay attention to whether she touches objects that are closer to you than to her. For example, if you are sitting in a cafe and a napkin is lying in the middle of the table, and you touch or adjust it, you are symbolically intruding on your personal space. It is an unconscious preparation for direct contact. The same applies to buttons on clothing. When a woman plays with the buttons of her blouse while speaking, especially the top ones, she is subtly drawing attention to that area. She is usually unaware of this, but her subconscious is pursuing other goals. All of this was preparation, because the decisive moment is the final step, and this step involves touch. We've arrived at the crucial moment, direct contact. And as a woman, I'm going to explain to you exactly what each kind of touch you might receive means. Let's start with something that seems obvious but has nuances most people aren't aware of: touching the arm. When a woman touches your arm during a conversation, she's breaking down an important physical barrier, but the meaning changes depending on how, where, and when she does it. A brief touch of your forearm while she's laughing at something you've said is a basic sign of interest. It means, "I like you, I enjoy your company." But if the touch lasts a moment longer than necessary, if she doesn't immediately pull her hand away, that changes everything. This additional touch is intentional, even if she isn't aware of it. The shoulder is a more intimate area. A touch on the shoulder implies greater physical closeness and generally indicates a higher level of comfort. When she touches your shoulder while telling you something personal, she's establishing both a physical and emotional connection. But the truly unmistakable sign is the hand. Even a brief accidental touch of her hand sends a clear signal. Hands are personal. We don't just touch anyone's hands. And if you want the ultimate proof, watch to see if she makes excuses to avoid touching you. How lovely the fabric is when it brushes against your shoulder. Her shirt is so soft when it touches your arm. These seemingly casual touches are anything but casual. In my clinical practice and in the research I have pursued for decades, I have observed that women-initiated physical contact increases significantly when they are with someone they are attracted to. This fact alone speaks volumes. There's a touch that's almost like a declaration of love. The touch of your lower back. If she places her hand on your back and lets it slide gently downwards while you're walking or making your way through a crowd, then that's a sign that you're a couple. No one touches the lower back of someone they aren't romantically interested in. The same goes for the knee. If she touches your knee during a conversation, especially if you're sitting next to each other, that's a clear signal. The knee is a private matter. You don't do that with acquaintances. But here's the most important tip. The strongest sign is not a single touch, but the escalation. If you notice that the touches increase, starting with something neutral like the forearm, then something more personal like the shoulder, and finally something more intimate like the hand or knee, you're currently experiencing a surge in interest, and there's something else you need to know. Something that ties everything we've discussed together. Now that you know the signs, you need to understand why. Because when we understand the psychology behind a behavior, we can interpret it much more accurately. The sense of touch is the first sense we develop. Before we could see and hear properly, we already felt. That's why the sense of touch is so closely linked to our emotions and our most basic instincts. When a woman feels attraction, the limbic system, the emotional part of the brain, is activated. This activation increases the need for physical contact. The brain practically craves touch. That's why self-touching gestures increase when there is attraction. The brain has to channel this energy somehow. Furthermore, touch releases cytokines, the so-called bonding hormones. Every time she touches you, even briefly, she produces a small dose of cytokines, both in herself and in you. The subconscious mind knows this and uses touch as a means of making contact. However, in my practice, I repeatedly observe the following. Women are generally more willing to use touch in social situations than men. This sensitivity is significantly heightened. However, in people to whom we are attracted, it's crucial to pay attention to whether she is more affectionate towards you than towards other people. In the same environment, in my decades of observing female behavior, I've noticed that physical contact during courtship functions as a kind of test. We touch each other to gauge the other person's reaction. If they react positively, we intensify the contact. If they pull away or seem tense, we withdraw. It's a constant unconscious feedback system. That's why it's so important, not only to recognize these signals but also to respond appropriately. If she touches your arm and you smile, lean slightly towards her and continue the conversation in a friendly manner, you're giving her the signal to intensify the contact. If you freeze or don't react, you send a signal of rejection, even unintentionally. And that leads us to a crucial point that many men don't understand. Knowing the signals is useless if you make these fatal mistakes. Mistake number 1, overinterpreting single signals. A simple touch of her hair doesn't mean she wants to marry you. You need to look for patterns, multiple signals, and consistency. Context is crucial. Mistake number 2, ignoring signs of discomfort. Yes, it's important to recognize interest, but it's equally important to recognize disinterest. If she crosses her arms, keeps her distance, avoids eye contact, or nervously touches objects, respect that. Negative signals are just as important as positive ones. Mistake number 3, doing nothing. It's no use recognizing all the signals if you don't act on them. Many men pay attention to body language but never take the next step. Signals are an invitation, and invitations have an expiration date. Mistake number 4, overly obvious observations. If you visibly analyze her every move during the conversation, it comes across as odd. Observations should be natural, casual, and integrated into the normal interaction. Mistake number 5, forgetting that you also send out signals. While you observe her, she observes you. Your body language significantly influences her reaction. If you close yourself off, seem nervous, and cross your arms, she's unlikely to feel comfortable sending positive signals. We've reached the end of this journey through the psychology of female touch, and I want you to take away something fundamental. The signals I've presented today aren't tricks or manipulations. This is how the human brain communicates attraction and interest throughout evolution. Every time a woman touches her hair in a certain way, strokes her neck, touches her lips, or touches you, she is expressing something that your words might never be able to convey. Your task now is to pay attention. Pay attention, because I guarantee you'll notice things in your next encounters with women that you completely missed before. And once you notice them, you won't be able to ignore them anymore. But remember, the signs are just the beginning. They're the journey, not the destination. What you do with this information, how you use it to make genuine, respectful, and engaging contact, is entirely up to you. And speaking of contact and unmistakable signals, what you've just learned about are signs of interest. But there's another level entirely. There comes a point when signs of interest transform into true passion. And believe me, the difference is enormous. It's one thing when a woman likes you and is initially attracted to you, but it's something else entirely when she crosses that line and truly falls in love. Her behavior changes completely. Gestures that were once subtle suddenly become obvious. And there are certain signs, some of them quite surprising, that reveal exactly when this happened. Want to know which ones? Then watch the video currently playing on your screen. If a woman does this, she's already in love with you. Female psychology. This video perfectly complements what you learned today. It shows you exactly which behaviors indicate that a woman is no longer just interested, but in love. By combining the knowledge from both videos, you'll gain an understanding of female behavior that remains hidden to most men. The video is displayed below. Click now because what you'll learn there could fundamentally change your perspective on the women in your life.